Reaction to Top 10 Scary Home Alone Stories brought to you by Most Amazing Top 10. Go subscribe to them now. Their channels are awesome. In fact, there's 2 of their channels. They have a lot more, believe me. Heck, there's even a new one called Top 10 Behind the Screen.
If you're watching this video because you think it's going to be scary facts about the Home Alone movie, 1 or 2, you're going to be sorely disappointed, I'm afraid. If, however, you want to hear more stories from real people about times when they were alone in a house and had mind-meltingly terrifying things happen to them, well, you've come to the right place. My name is Danny Burke, and this is the Top 10 Scary Home Alone Stories, Part 2. Starting at number 10 now, we have Great Grandma. This one comes from Captain Kershaw. Now, he said that one day he answered the phone to hear an elderly woman calmly and loudly say to him, "Tell Essie it is time to come home." He kept telling her that she definitely had the wrong number, but the old woman was adamant that he passed along that message. The only part of the message he actually understood was Essie. You see, Essie was the childhood nickname of his grandmother, but nobody had used it for decades. 2 hours after the phone call, he got a call from his grandmother's assisted living home telling him that his grandmother had passed away in her sleep. Now, the grandmother, her mother, had died when she was just 16 years old, and suddenly it clicked for him. Now, he believes that the voice on the phone was that of his great-grandmother, telling him to tell her daughter that after all these years, it was finally time to come home. Moving on to number 9 now, we have The Count. This one comes from Reddit, where a girl said that she has a sleep-talking recorder app on her phone. The app is just meant to be a bit of fun, to listen to anything you might just blurt out in your sleep. It only starts recording though if it detects sound, and usually she finds that it's just clips of her rolling around in bed. One night she was home alone. Her parents were out and her brother was at a friend's house. She woke up and saw that her app had a new recording. She listened to it and heard what sounded like a man with a German or perhaps Eastern European accent say, 1, 2. Now, when I first read this, I wasn't too sure about it, but then I found that she actually provided a link to the real recording. So, here it is. Let me know what you think.
Sounds like a demon. Sounds like a demon. Sounds like a demon.
Well, what do you think of that? Do you think that sounds like a teenage girl in her sleep? What's your explanation for that? Let me know, please, because that's creepy. Next up at number 8 now, we have The Artist. This one was posted to Reddit as well. A girl said that during summer 5 years ago, she was home alone one night when she heard the doorbell ring. She opened the door to see a man stood there holding a large square bag. He started talking about how he was an artist and was going to open up an art gallery soon. He told her he wanted to sell her some paintings for a low price just to get things started. She wanted to be polite, so she let him open the bag and show her the paintings. After the first few, she realized they were all nude. Actually, they were beyond nude. The first one was impressionist, the second one was more photorealistic and graphic. The paintings became more grotesque and twisted with each one. Some contained gore.
That is my nephew. Stupid ass. I don't care about questions. I know I love to eat them. Right now, I'm sorry, I don't care.
Gore and bestiality. The man just stood there flicking through them and grinning at her the whole time. At one point he stepped towards her. That's when she blurted out that she didn't have enough money to pay for them and slammed the door in his face. She peeked out of the window a while later and he was still stood there. She shouted out in his face. She peeked.
Kill that dead. Kill that dead. It's peering into my
out the window a while later and he was still stood there. She shouted out that she was going to call the police, and it was only then that the artist walked away. Next up at number 7 now, we have The Note. When Reddit user M Soup was 19, her parents and brother went away for the weekend, leaving her home alone. She had a pretty rough night and was very drunk. For some reason, she decided to cut her long hair in a drunken effort to reinvent herself because she was moving away for university the following week. When she finished cutting the hair up to her neck, she stepped out of the bathroom to find a note on the floor in the hallway. It said, I was going to leave you a note, but I see that you are here. She tried not to freak out. She walked to her bedroom, she opened the door, and there, standing in the middle of the room, was a guy with hair over his face, just grinning. She freaked out then and began screaming, and then she recognized him. It was a guy she actually used to date 3 years before until he ran away from home. It turned out that he heard she was moving away and just wanted to talk to her, which they did. He didn't hurt or threaten her in any way, but she found out 2 years later that he had been institutionalized with schizophrenia. Moving on to number 6 now, we have the Angry Man. This one comes from user Not a Sugar Baby But Okay. He said that his family home lies on a 200-year-old street. It's a popular area for tourists, and quite often they found tourists just standing outside their windows trying to get a peek inside the old house. It's annoying and creepy, but he got used to it. One night he went upstairs to go to bed and found a guy standing in front of the window. The windows are the original casing, so they've got heavy wooden interior shutters that close at night. He closed one side because at that point he was tired and he didn't care if this strange man could see their upstairs living room. Then he went to close the other shutter and the man gave him a furious look. It was a twisted, evil expression that was just dripping with rage and venom. He was so shocked by the man's face that he stopped in his tracks. The two stared at each other in silence for a few moments before the stranger's face changed suddenly to a creepy, leering smile. Then he walked down the street. The storyteller says he got up to check the locks of the house about 8 times over the course of that night. Next to number 5 now, we have The Beast. This one comes from Reddit user I Am The Cage. She did a great first person telling of this story, and this is how it goes. I was house sitting for my parents who live in the actual middle of nowhere. The closest neighbour they have is about a mile away. My parents had taken their dogs with them on vacation to the beach, so it was an eerie and silent house to be in. It was the kind of quiet that you wouldn't want to turn off the TV to, or you will be faced with nothing but the eerie sound of your breath and footsteps. On one completely pitch black night, void of any moon, I stepped onto the black porch for a quick smoke before bed. As I reached the bottom of the steps, I pulled out a cigarette from the pack and fumbled for my lighter. As I flicked the wheel, the glow of the small flame briefly lit up my surroundings. In that split second of brief illumination, it became apparent I was not alone. In a few seconds it took my brain to process the dimly lit image. I realized that I had just momentarily seen some massive, brown-haired, four-legged beast eating from one of the dog's bowls by the steps leading from the porch into the house. And I do mean massive, twice the size of me at least, covered in some dirty brown human-like hair from front to back. I didn't make out its head, but I knew from that glimpse of its torso that this is some...
Oh my God.
This is a brief history of B&H. In 1973, Fellini and Herman opened up a small photography shop with a simple philosophy.
Treat people right, and they will.
No one gets to take my identity, or else you die.
Also, that this is something that I've never seen in the wild. As I stood there in fear from what was standing not 3 feet away from me, unseen in the blackness of night, it lets out some kind of deep, guttural grunt and plods off into the woods, shaking the porch as it runs away, leaving me scared and shaking in the pitch black dark, with a still unlit cigarette hanging from my mouth. Very creepy story. It turns out that the beast may have been something to do with the reports of feral pigs in the area that she heard about later, but she's never been too sure. I hope it was feral pigs. Moving on to number 4 now, we have footsteps. Whiterun said that when he was a kid, he was home alone one day while his mum took his sister to school. Now after about 15 minutes, he heard the front door unlock, then open, and then came the sound of footsteps. They were slow and heavy and moved into the kitchen. He assumed it was just his mum, but even then he thought it sounded different. It sounded strange. Also, normally she would call out whenever she arrived home. To him, this sounded like a big guy with boots on. He called out to the footsteps, but was met with only silence. Now he was scared. He grabbed his dog from outside, and the two of them hid in a corner of the house. After what felt like an eternity, his mum really did come home. He told her about it, and also the fact that he didn't hear those footsteps leave the house. The door was still locked, however, so were the windows, and there was no sign that anybody had entered. Not even a mark on the carpet from a shoe. Was that person still in their home? Were they even human? To this day, he has no idea what happened.
No, they
Number 3
weren't
now, we
human.
have the cackle. Corby315 said that one day, when doing his laundry in his basement, one of the lights blew out. His basement was set up so that the laundry room is separated from the other side of the basement with a wall and a door. To get upstairs, you need to exit the laundry room and go through the other part of the basement. Since there was only one light on one side, it was always very dark. He finished the laundry and began to walk through the dark basement. As he exited the laundry room and got halfway through the basement, he heard a loud cackle. It was like the sound people make when they imitate a witch. In Corby's own words, he said it sounded like a witch who had been smoking for 50 years. It was a deep, raspy, hoarse cackle. That's what he heard, crystal clear, right behind him. He didn't look or hesitate, he simply ran for the stairs. Then Corby waited upstairs until his dad got home and changed that light bulb. He has not heard the cackle since that day and has never told a single person in the house about it. Coming in number 2 now, we have the figure. This one comes from Reddit user Definitely Not Satan. That's the kind of username that Satan would actually have. Suspect. When he was 18, he house sat for his parents while they spent a week away. He fell asleep one night but was awakened by the sound of talking. He looked to the other side of the room only to see that a small figure was breathing heavily, muttering and inching itself across the room towards his bed. What? He jumped up and just ran straight past it, all while screaming for his parents and telling them to get out of the house right now. After his parents calmed him down and got him away from the front door, they went to go and investigate. They found no evidence of the small muttering creature. His parents didn't believe him, but he still, to this day, swears that what he saw was 100% real. This one sounds a bit like the stories I've heard of people seeing fairies or like tiny people around the world, especially kids seeing them in their own bedrooms. But if you guys had experiences like that. And finally,
There we go, number 1. Now you people go watch this video for yourself. This has been Lego Shadow Viper. I watched this. Hold on. I watched... Hold up. I watched this. Tomorrow or sometime soon, I'll be playing this game again. Again, I love the skin. You should see one of my new ones. Anyways, peace!